This is a quick demo of using the debugger features within PyCharm. So here I've typed in a sample program that is supposed to add up the numbers from 1 through x, whatever x is set to. So 5 is what I've got here. Let's just do a regular run here first and see what happens. I'm going to change this to presentation mode so you can read it a little easier. So when I run this, it says for x of 5, my sum is 10. Now, if we think about it a moment, that doesn't sound quite right because I know 5 plus 4 is 9. So we're going to have to end up with more than 10. So there's something wrong here, but it's not obvious. In fact, what I've done here is a pretty typical mistake for someone new to Python. And it's actually a misunderstanding of how the range function works. But see here, this looks logical. We're starting with a value of 0. We're counting for I in range x, so x is 5. And here we're adding I to a for each iteration of that loop, and we should end up with the result that we want. But it's not quite right. Let's try another number and see what happens. If I try 3, it says the numbers 1 through 3 add up to 3. Well, that can't be right either. It should be 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3. So something's going wrong here, and if you can't figure it out from just inspecting your code, that's when a debugger can be useful. So the easiest way to invoke the debugger in PyCharm is right-click on here, and you get this extra options here. We want step through debugger example, and so it opens up the debugger portion of the interface down here, and we can see what's happening as it executes. So it goes to the very first line, it's number 4, where anything actually happens. Above that, we just have blank lines and comments, so there's nothing for it to do. And it's called a stepping debugger because we can click and go through one line at a time, like I showed you in the Python visualizer. Usually you're going to want this step into my code. Okay, so we just ran line 4, and the only thing that's happened is it created a variable named name, assigned it the string value of John. We can see that right here. And now it's pointing at line 5 and ready to go for that. So I'll continue here. You can see the variables x is 3. It also nicely adds these virtual comments out here. See x:3 and name:john. It will update those as it runs, just as another place where you can view the value of all your variables as the program runs. Okay, I just ran the print line, so that's why this 3 showed up over here. A is 0. Now we're going to start this loop. Now notice both down here and up here, it tells us that the first time into this loop, I equals 0. That actually is related to our flaw or bug in this program. You might have intuitively thought that range would start counting at 1, like we learned in kindergarten. But no, it, like a lot of things in computing, starts counting things at 0 instead. So that means as we step through here, we can see A was equal to 0, but then it added 0 that first time through. So it's still 0. This next time through, I is 1. You can see A is 0, I is 1, until we go through line 10, and it updates A and so forth. Okay, so each time I go through this, we can see I is now 2, A is 3, and so forth. It's very easy to track exactly what's happening. Now, there, with I of 2, that's actually the third time through this loop, and it's done with the range. So the execution pointer, the highlight here, is now on line 11, and it's ready to run that one. Okay, so with this, we identified the problem with our code is that the range function didn't do what's perhaps more intuitive, and we need to actually change some options here. So I'm going to close the debugger, and I'm going to change this. Now, range, we can tell it that we want to start at 1 instead of 0 and count up to x, except it never actually reaches the stop value. So here, if we say 1, 3, it's going to actually count 1 and 2 and then stop. So we want this to be x plus 1. Now let's try it and see if we get what we want. Yes, for x of 3, 6 is the correct number. Let's try something else here. 10, that's looking good. So we have debugged this simple program with the assistance of the stepping debugger tool. Okay, and that's all for now.